I don't think you can believe anything any of our politicians say, except for perhaps some of the Freedom Party candidates. And I think this is one of the most unenthusiastic lead up to any election I've seen in my, last however many voting sort of lead ups. But it's really hard to know what to believe. To be honest, Kel's situation, what he said, I completely agree. Worst case scenario is if what the polls say is happening actually happens.
But they don't say it's happening.
I hope that you're right, Joe.
But the news poll does suggest that it is still a real possibility.
It is a possibility,
that it could be
yeah. A bus falling from the sky onto our heads right now
it's
is
a possibility, but it could be likely. It could be likely.
Yeah, I don't know.
So on the thing with Labor and the Greens, I know I harp on, and I hate the Greens. I would much rather Labor didn't do any deals with them whatsoever. But they are doing less preference deals with the Greens at this election than they have at any time before.
A few, and the overwhelming majority of seats is including Albanese's own seat.
I know. But he will win that on primaries, so that is completely pyrrhic.
Look, I'll throw a spanner in the works, right? Yes. I believe that Labor and Greens a long time ago decided that let's pretend to be enemies. So the Greens, because people are going to not like the two major parties, so because they used to work closely together a long time ago and people forget. So the Greens have built up the young demographic. So Labor's like, you be our enemy, you get all the young people, and then we'll work together once we get in, right? And the issue here is whether it's a hung parliament, whether you think Labor's just going to walk in, it's the Senate we need to be concerned about, because that's where the deals are made to get legislation through. So I'm curious to see how that's going to pan out, because there are a lot of smaller parties, smaller, like Gerard Rennick, people like that running for the Senate, and that's where the issue is. And the Greens often try and get in the Senate so they can push things through for Labor.
Well, it will be an interesting election to watch. There is no doubt about that, even if the campaign itself has been quite underwhelming. Look, according to the latest SEC Newgate Mood of the Nation survey, it's looking even worse for the coalition, because Mr Albanese has streaked ahead of Peter Dutton on cost of living. The ALP now leads the coalition 42 to 24% on who voters think can better manage the economic crisis. Just have a look at this graph. It shows voters' confidence in the government to handle cost of living plummeting from about September 2022, while their faith in the coalition was steadily climbing. But things shifted suddenly in February this year. Labor's rating skyrockets and the opposition's declines sharply. Kel, why do you think there was this sudden change? I'm trying to think, what happened then? The RBA rates dropped in February. Was it all to do with that, or is it just that the closer to an election, especially with a first-term government, people get a bit spooked of change?
Look, can I be honest, I really find it very hard to understand, because you would think that in the end, in fact, a good friend of mine, Hugh Mackay, one of the great researchers in Australia, used to say a whole lot of political speeches and a whole lot of political advertising has no impact. It's real life that has an impact. Real life for 3 years has been these guys make everything more expensive and more difficult for us. And there are now more Australians doing two jobs than ever before. There are more businesses, particularly small businesses, going bankrupt than ever before. That's real life. So I've got to admit to being beaten as to why real life is not defeating the rhetoric in this case.
I know. Why is it because easy? Labor are probably the best at political campaigning. They just lie. They just tell you exactly what you want to hear. And in a time of hopelessness and fear, when you're really desperate, you will latch on to anyone that's going to tell you that things will get better and get better with us. And the coalition have failed with that. The coalition kind of handpick key things and they jump around, and they haven't been strong on their message to say we are the solution to fix this. But Labor just pushes through. They don't apologise for anything. They haven't talked about the past and the mistakes they've made. They just said we're the ones to help you.
You know what happened in February? Dutton opened his mouth. I'm serious. He ruined his own campaign, or whoever's advising him, because all he had to do was shut up and stop parroting exactly what Labor is saying and come up with his own policies that is an alternative and not just Labor light, and perhaps he would have won. Because to be honest, like I am that fed up with the Liberal Party because all they do is squander things. They had a real opportunity here to give Australians what they want, exactly like what you said, Amanda, but they failed. The only thing that I think the Liberal Party have got right is perhaps the referendum. But then now, post-referendum, when they have the Australian people behind them and the momentum of that on all of these important issues that are around that exact same cultural issue, they continue to fail again and again. And that is why the enthusiasm is behind all of the minor parties. There's really not much enthusiasm behind Labor. There's really not much enthusiasm at all behind Liberal, but all the enthusiasm, exactly like you said, Gerard Rennick, Craig Kelly, all of these freedom parties, because people are just desperate for something different than the same crap that we've been having for the last 3 years, and that's all Liberal
And the
offering.
polling does show that the support for major parties is at a record low.